Next chapter of Last of the Really Great Whangdoodles. They rested for half an hour. The professor was weary, though he tried hard not to show it. He talked about the swamp gaboons. I hope you realize what a valuable lesson you all learned just now. Tom said, You mean about turning the other cheek? Yes, that's part of it. That will be many times in your lives, at school, and particularly when you are grown up, when people will distract you or divert you from what needs to be done. You may even welcome the distraction, but if you use it as an excuse for not doing what you're supposed to do, you can blame no one but yourself. If you truly wish to accomplish something, you should allow nothing to stop you, and chances are you'll succeed. The professor leaned back against the mountain and took a deep breath. You see, the gaboon's words didn't hurt you once you resolved not to let them. They did hurt a bit, Lindy confessed in a small voice. Yes, but when you remembered your main purpose, you were able to put aside your feelings and concentrate on the important issues. He mopped his brow. I think we should try to push on. They followed him as slowly and laboriously and climbed up the steep and narrow path. The children shuddered as they looked down at the ground hundreds of feet below them. They must be on like a steep cliff. The professor began to act in a way that was very unlike him. He paused frequently, sometimes shielding his eyes and gazing into the distance. Occasionally he mumbled to himself. Once he said quite clearly, I must remember to pack my red socks. The children could only think that the whole incredible search for the Whangdoodle had become too great a strain for their good friend. They clustered around him lovingly in an attempt to encourage him. Ben said, Look, Professor, how near we are to the castle. They could see now that the pure, transparent crystal was buttressed by huge pillars of milk-white glass. The turrets were like the creamy frosting on top of a birthday cake and seemed to be reaching to touch the red sky. You might want to draw a picture of that one. Higher and higher they climbed. The altitude made them all short of breath, and the professor gasped and moved more slowly with every step. Suddenly he stopped and leaned against a rock. He shut his eyes. My dears, he said in a tired voice, I do not think I can go any further. You must go on without me. They all spoke at once. But that's impossible, Professor. We'll never make it without you. We're so close. If you could just try one step at a time. He raised a hand wearily. No, you don't understand. But they wouldn't listen. We'll help you, Professor. We'll wait for you. Tom said, Lean on me, sir. Put your whole weight on me. I can take it. Sometimes the adults need the help. So help them. Ben ran ahead into a bend in the road. When he turned the corner, he was so staggered by what he saw that for a moment he could not move. Then he raced back to the professor. Sir, we just have to go on, he cried. We're there. We're actually there. I found the bridge. It's around the corner. All we have to do is cross over to reach the palace. Come and see for yourself. Come on, Professor. You can do it. You can. The children were wild with excitement. Their sheer enthusiasm carried the professor forward. With triumph in his voice, Ben said, There! You see? See the bridge? We've made it! The children gazed with awe at the sight before them, and they were all close to tears. Ahead, the ground fell away into a tremendous chasm. Remember, we said that's like a very deep, straight down canyon. Thousands of feet deep, and far below was a thundering waterfall, so huge that the sound of it echoed back to the top of the mountain. Spanning the abyss was a bridge. It was incredibly beautiful, like an inverted silken rainbow, swaying gently in the cool breeze. At the far end of it, two bronze doors were set into a colossal archway. They were open, and beyond them was the Whangdoodles palace. Ben turned to the professor. "We've done it, Professor. Aren't you proud? Aren't you thrilled?" The professor did not answer. He was staring at the palace with intense concentration. He sat down on a nearby rock and put his head in his hands. In all the weeks the children had known him, they had never seen him so dispirited. They gathered round him. He raised his head and looked at them for a long moment. Then he said, "You're going to have to do something for me, which I know you will not want to do. But there must be no argument about it. I want you to go on to the palace by yourselves. Listen to me," he said firmly, as they started to protest. "When I first conceived of the idea of trying to reach the Whangdoodle, I realized only too well that I might fail. I was too old, too set in my thought patterns. The three of you came along. I hoped that, through you, I might reawaken the younger part of my mind, the imagination that had been shut up and shut down for so many years. In other words, if your eyes could see it, perhaps mine could see it too." The professor's voice broke. "I must tell you," he continued, "that the closer we have come to the Whangdoodle, the harder it has been for me to keep up with you. The last part of the journey has been almost impossible for me."